The hidden force, how your dark energy shapes reality in ways you never noticed. There is a force within you that you've likely misunderstood your entire life, a vibration that doesn't align with the conventional spiritual narrative of peace, positivity, and radiant light. Instead, it's dense, intense, magnetic, and often misjudged as something to be healed or cast out. But what if that very energy, the one you've been taught to suppress and fear, is actually your greatest source of spiritual power? You see, we've all been conditioned to believe that darkness equals danger, that anything shadowy within us must be purified. But that's not wisdom, that's fear-based programming. Your dark vibration, when fully realized, is not a flaw in your energy field, it's an untapped dimension of your soul. It's not evil, it's not broken, it's primal intelligence. And the first sign of its power is this: you affect people deeply without trying. You've noticed it. Some people are drawn to you like moths to a flame. Others shy away, uncomfortable, unable to explain why. Your vibration isn't just high. It's heavy, with depth, with mystery, with truth. You walk into a room and shift the atmosphere. That's not charisma. That's not ego. That's the gravitational pull of your unacknowledged soul. Another sign that your dark vibration runs deep is your relationship to negative emotions. You've stopped trying to escape them. Instead, you've learned to witness them. While others run from their rage, envy, or grief, you sit with them. You don't label them as bad anymore. You ask them questions. You know that your anger isn't just a reaction, it's information. Your sadness isn't weakness, it's a message. You've become a shadow alchemist. And the more you explore your inner darkness, the more you realize these emotions are not here to destroy you. They're here to awaken you, to sharpen you, to remind you of what still lives in the basement of your psyche. And because you're brave enough to go there, to sit in that space where most people avert their eyes, your energy becomes something else entirely. You stop vibrating from the surface and begin to emanate from the depths. That's why people feel you before you speak. You're not just showing up, you're projecting truth. Solitude plays a massive role in this transformation. If your dark vibration is strong, chances are you've spent long periods in isolation, not as punishment, but as a sacred incubation. You felt the pull to disconnect from the noise, from shallow conversations, from environments that could no longer meet you where you were. You weren't retreating out of sadness. You were being summoned inward. That's a sign of soul initiation. The dark vibration often calls us into the underworld of our own being before it lets us rise. And in that isolation, you began to access parts of yourself that had been dormant for lifetimes. You began to hear your own voice again, not your ego, not the voice of society, but the ancient whisper of your soul. The one that says, you are not here to be liked, you are here to remember who you are. That's where your power began to crystallize, not through validation, but through void. And the deeper you went, the less tolerance you had for anything that wasn't real. Another unmistakable sign of this energy is that you attract wounded people, not because you're meant to heal them, but because you mirror them. You act as a black mirror. People feel seen around you, but not in a gentle way. They feel exposed. Their masks begin to slip. Their projections come forward. And without even trying, you become a spiritual disruptor, a living catalyst. You might have been blamed for causing drama or being too intense, but the truth is, you are simply reflecting what others refuse to look at in themselves. That's what your dark vibration does. It reveals, it exposes, it strips away illusion. And yes, that makes you a target, but it also makes you a lighthouse for those who are ready to face themselves. You don't do this through judgment, you do this through presence. You've stopped trying to save people. You've realized that your role is not to carry others. It's to awaken them. And awakening, as we know, is rarely comfortable. Lastly, and perhaps most profoundly, you've stopped chasing the light as the ultimate goal. You've seen through the illusion that being spiritual means being happy all the time. You've realized that wholeness is not found in perfection. It's found in integration. You are not here to be pure. You are here to be complete. You've embraced that you are both light and shadow, both fire and silence, both the healer and the destroyer. And because of this, your vibration carries the full spectrum of human and cosmic truth. You've become the embodiment of balance, not by neutralizing your darkness, but by honoring it, by bowing to it, by realizing that your rage contains boundaries, your grief contains wisdom, your fear contains instinct, your shadow contains power. And now, instead of fighting it, you carry it like a crown. You wear it like armor. You channel it like sacred fire. That is when your dark vibration becomes unstoppable. Not because you've hidden it, but because you've owned it. The alchemy of shadows. How to transform your inner darkness into unstoppable spiritual power. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers through you in the form of silence, presence, or a gaze that pierces through the lies people tell themselves. If your dark vibration is rising, you've probably already felt this. People start confessing things to you, not because they trust you fully, but because they can't hold it in around you. Your energy pulls truth out of people like a magnet pulling iron through skin. This isn't about manipulation, this is frequency. The darkness you've integrated within yourself becomes a mirror to others' unhealed places. You've become a vessel for raw, uncomfortable, liberating honesty. Even when someone resists, their soul knows that in your presence they must drop their masks. And when they do, something ancient in you nods, because you remember that your energy was never about being nice. It was always about being real. And realness is the rarest spiritual currency in a world obsessed with image. Another sign that your dark vibration is more powerful than you think is this: you no longer fear being misunderstood. You've stopped explaining yourself to people who don't have the capacity to understand you. You've stopped over-clarifying your intentions. You've stopped trying to make your darkness palatable for those who only speak the language of light. This is spiritual maturity. It means you've accepted that your energy will not resonate with everyone, and that's not a flaw, it's a filter. Those who feel threatened by your depth are not your enemies. They're simply not meant to walk beside you. And those who do resonate with your frequency, they recognize you instantly, not by your words, but by your vibration. They feel safe in your storm. They find clarity in your chaos. They meet you in the space beyond duality, where light and dark are no longer enemies, but co-creators. That's the space you now live in. That's the power you walk with. You've likely noticed that the stronger your dark vibration becomes, the more life tests you. Not because you're being punished, but because you're being refined. You no longer attract small problems. You attract spiritual initiations, the kind that shake you to your core, the kind that strip away your comforts and illusions. These aren't random events. They're sacred challenges designed to activate your latent gifts. You've begun to see suffering differently. Pain doesn't scare you anymore. You've died and resurrected so many times that you've lost count. You've been shattered and rebuilt yourself in silence. And now, when destruction comes knocking, you don't panic, you listen. You ask, what is this teaching me? What am I being called to release? You've become an alchemist, not because you avoid pain, but because you transmute it. Your darkness is no longer a wound. It's a weapon, a tool, a portal into deeper strength. This is the paradox most spiritual teachings don't talk about. Your shadow holds the key to your light, but only when you stop trying to conquer it. You see, the shadow is not your enemy. It's your unclaimed self. Every time you deny your anger, your fear, your lust, your envy, you exile a part of your soul. And over time, those exiled parts become hungry, twisted, and loud. But when you turn toward them, when you say, "I see you," something incredible happens. You reclaim your power. You integrate your fragmentation. You become whole. And in that wholeness, your vibration becomes undeniable. You stop leaking energy trying to hide. You stop performing for acceptance. You begin to walk in the world as someone who has nothing to prove, because you've already met the darkest parts of yourself and loved them back into power. Have you noticed how your creativity has changed? That's another sign. You no longer create from inspiration alone. You create from necessity, from pain, from depth, from the underground rivers within your psyche. Your art, your words, your ideas, they carry a frequency that makes people feel seen, not just entertained. You've become a transmitter for collective emotion. You speak into the void and others hear themselves echoing back. That's not coincidence. That's channeling. That's what happens when your dark vibration becomes sacred expression. You've stopped censoring yourself. You've stopped trying to be positive all the time. You've started being truthful. And that truth cuts through illusions like a blade. It liberates. It burns. It heals. And because you've gone to those places in yourself, your work, your voice, becomes medicine for others who are still trying to find their way out of the dark. Another sign that your dark vibration is rising in power is that your relationship with power itself has changed. You no longer see power as dominance or control. You see it as presence, as sovereignty, as the ability to stand fully in your truth without needing validation. You don't chase influence. You embody it. You don't seek followers. You speak, and those who are meant to hear will find you. You've realized that true power doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It doesn't explain. It simply is. And because of this, you've stopped comparing yourself. You've stopped competing. You've stopped playing roles. You've begun to live from a place of inner authority. And that authority radiates. It shakes rooms. It silences noise. It calls others into alignment, not through force, but through frequency. That's the power of integrated darkness. It doesn't control others. It activates them. Let me ask you something. What if your darkness isn't a flaw to fix, but a frequency to master? What if everything you've been ashamed of is actually the raw material of your destiny? This is the final and most powerful realization. You're not here to escape your shadow. You're here to become its master, to dance with it, to extract the gold, to turn your wounds into wisdom. Every breakdown you've endured, every betrayal you've suffered, every night you cried alone, they weren't detours. They were initiations. Your dark vibration is not a curse. It's a map, a spiritual GPS guiding you to your most authentic self. And now, you're no longer afraid of who you've been. You're not ashamed of what you've felt. You've embraced it all. And in that embrace, you've become something rare, something sacred, something unshakable. You've become the embodiment of divine duality, a master of light and shadow. And that is the most powerful vibration of all. The dangerous gift. Why the world fears your dark power, and why it's time to use it. There's a reason the world responds to your energy with suspicion, fear, or fascination. It's because the frequency you carry doesn't conform, it confronts. Your dark vibration is not just emotionally intense, it's existentially disruptive. When you show up fully in your truth, you don't just challenge people's egos, you challenge their entire worldview. You make people feel things they've buried. You activate thoughts they've never dared to think. You represent a version of reality that doesn't rely on superficial peace or performative love. And that's terrifying to those still clinging to illusion. The world fears what it can't control, and your energy cannot be controlled. It doesn't beg for permission. It doesn't ask to be understood. It simply is. And that is why it's so powerful. Because while others are trying to survive by fitting in, you're thriving by standing out. You are dangerous, not because you harm, but because you liberate. And liberation, in a society built on fear, is always seen as rebellion. Throughout your life, you might have noticed how often people tried to fix you. They projected onto you. They labeled your depth as depression, your intensity as anger, your solitude as antisocial behavior. They couldn't grasp the fact that you were processing reality on a different level. You weren't broken, you were initiated. You weren't lost, you were deep. You weren't cold, you were observing. But because your frequency didn't mirror their comfort zones, they tried to put you in a box. And every time you resisted, they called you difficult, dramatic, or even dangerous. But here's the truth. You weren't reacting, you were remembering. You were remembering your soul's ancient contract. A contract that says, I will not shrink to make others feel safe. And you've honored that contract, even when it cost you relationships, jobs, or belonging. That's how you know your dark power is real, because you've paid the price for it. And still, you never gave it up. You've also come to understand that darkness doesn't mean destruction. It means depth. It means you're not afraid to dive beneath the surface of things. You don't take people or situations at face value. You listen to what isn't being said. You feel the tension that contradicts the words. You notice the dissonance between energy and behavior. And because of that, you've become almost psychic. Your perception is layered and nuanced. You don't just read people, you decode them. This is a spiritual gift, but it's also a heavy responsibility. Because when you can see through illusion, you can't pretend anymore. You can't unsee the truth. And often this means walking away from what others still worship: false love, fake friendships, dead-end jobs, shallow spirituality. You don't leave because you're bitter. You leave because you know. And knowing is a lonely gift, but it's also the essence of power. Another sign that your dark vibration is fully awakened is that you no longer divide your life into spiritual and human. You don't go to a retreat and then return to a fake version of yourself. You don't meditate in the morning and then lie to yourself all day. You've stopped compartmentalizing your truth. You've integrated it. You bring your awareness into all areas of life: money, sex, relationships, business, politics, art. You understand that true spirituality is not about escaping the world. It's about transforming it. And to transform it, you must engage with it. That means speaking the truth when others stay silent. That means creating art that disturbs and heals. That means calling out injustice, even when it costs you your comfort. You've become a spiritual warrior, not because you fight others, but because you refuse to fight your own soul. You've stopped hiding, and now your life is your message. There's something else that happens when your dark vibration becomes undeniable. You stop fearing death. Not just literal death, but ego death, identity death, and the death of attachments. You've died so many times inside that you've become comfortable with endings. You've learned to let go of things before they rot. You've learned to walk away before your spirit suffocates. You don't cling anymore. You release. And with every release you become lighter, not in a superficial way, but in a sovereign way. You become less reactive, less bound, less manipulated by fear, because you now understand impermanence. You don't chase forever. You honor the now. And because of that, you move through life with a kind of quiet power that others can't explain. You're not attached to outcomes, you're aligned with purpose. And that purpose is rooted in your soul, not your ego. That's why you're dangerous. Because you can't be bought, swayed, or broken. Let me ask you a question, one that only the brave can answer. What would your life look like if you stopped hiding your power and started using it unapologetically? Not to dominate, but to awaken. Not to control, but to create. What would happen if you stopped dimming your frequency for people who never intended to meet you at your depth? What if you stopped asking for permission to be what you already are? A force of nature, a disruptor of illusions, a walking portal of transformation. This is the moment you stop pretending. This is the moment you stop waiting. You were not born to be neutral. You were born to ignite. And yes, some will misunderstand you. Some will project onto you. But the ones who are meant to rise with you, they will recognize your fire. They will remember their own. And together, you will burn down everything false. The final truth is this: your dark vibration is not a phase, a mood, or a mistake. It is your sacred inheritance. It is the part of you that remembers lifetimes of wisdom, pain, rebellion, and resilience. It's the part of you that doesn't flinch when the world shakes. It's the part that knows. And now it's time to live from that knowing, not just in private, not just in your journal, but out loud, in your choices, in your voice, in your presence. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to awaken the few who are ready to remember who they are. And for that, you must stop apologizing. You must stop shrinking. You must let your vibration speak for itself, because it already does. And the more you claim it, the more you become what you were always destined to be. A living embodiment of power, truth, and transformation. A force the world cannot ignore. A frequency that cannot be faked. A soul on fire. The rise of the shadow bearer, living as your full power in a world that fears it now that you've heard the signs, now that you've seen yourself reflected in these truths. The real question emerges: what will you do with this power? Because this isn't about knowing more, it's about embodying more. We live in a time where authentic energy is rare. Everyone is broadcasting, but few are transmitting. Everyone wants attention, but few are willing to carry the responsibility that comes with real spiritual presence. Your dark vibration is not a trend. It's not an aesthetic. It's a responsibility. You've been given this depth for a reason. You've walked through pain, isolation, betrayal, and rebirth, not just for yourself, but because you're meant to light the path for others still stumbling through their own darkness. But understand this: the world won't always celebrate you for this. It may resist you, cancel you, misunderstand you. That's the cost of being real. But your soul didn't come here to be worshipped. It came here to wake people up. And every time you choose truth over comfort, power over approval, presence over performance, you fulfill that mission. You have to remember that your darkness is not just about intensity, it's about vision. You see the world differently. You see beyond the games, beyond the masks. You see the pain in joy and the beauty in chaos. You see the patterns that trap people and the potential they're too afraid to claim. This is why people are drawn to you, even when they don't understand why. It's not because you're trying to be magnetic. It's because you are. Your frequency disrupts the matrix. And while that might sound dramatic, it's the truth. The world is a web of illusions, and your very presence unravels them. You don't even have to speak. Your silence speaks. Your gaze speaks. Your stillness sends ripples. So the question now becomes, are you willing to stop diluting yourself in a world that fears concentrated truth? Because your full power is not gentle, it's not subtle, and it's not here to coexist with lies. It's here to replace them. So how do you live with this vibration without being consumed by it? The answer is integration. You must balance the fire with water, the stillness with motion. You must build structures that can hold your energy, rituals, boundaries, creative outlets, solitude, aligned relationships. Your power is vast, but it must be channeled. Otherwise it will burn you out or turn inward. You need to ground your intensity in purpose. You need to give your shadow a throne, not a cage. That means creating from it, speaking from it, leading from it, not recklessly but consciously. You are not here to be consumed by your darkness. You are here to wield it. And that requires discipline, humility, and sacred self-respect. You must protect your energy, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Because when your vibration is this potent, it becomes a target for energy vampires, chaos junkies, and those who want your power without doing the work to earn their own. You must learn to say no. You must learn to walk away. You must learn to choose yourself again and again. And finally, let this truth settle deep into your bones. You are not too much. You are not too dark. You are not too intense. You are exactly what this world needs, because you are exactly what this world has forgotten. You carry the codes of the ancient ones. You are a storm wrapped in skin, a prophecy wrapped in pain. And now, you are no longer waiting for permission to be who you are. You are no longer dimming your flame to fit into rooms that could never hold your heat. The time of shrinking is over. The time of apologizing is over. The time of pretending is over. You've heard the call. You've felt the fire. You are the fire. And your dark vibration is not something to manage, it's something to master. Solriza. And never again mistake your shadow for weakness. It is your lineage. It is your language. And it is your light, inverted. Let the world feel you. Let the world fear you. Let the world find itself through you.